mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, get us any.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Big Football Show. I'm your host, Mac, co-host Jack Hirsch, Sonja Pearson, and of course, our two-time Super Bowl champion, Jim Jeffcoat. Welcome to everyone joining us, and welcome to everybody here. Of course, Sonja decided to disappear during the intro. I don't know if I should let her back in or not. I mean, the device got disconnected, and I don't know what she's. All right, we'll bring her back on. Okay.
I hit
Good
the
morning,
wrong
Sonja.
button. Good
Yes.
morning.
Good morning, Sonja. So Sonja's really sharp. She was up late last night having her after game party there with all her friends, and she's all happy. I saw Sonja was kind of a bandwagon jumper. I never thought this. First, she likes the Panthers, and then she's all over the other teams now that are in the playoffs. You know, so I mean, I don't know who her favorite team really is anymore. All right, so she does put on her Panthers hat, so we can keep it going. Again, good morning, everyone. So guys, of course, the first round of the division playoffs are in. The two home teams they hold serve. One was a blowout. One was a very close game. And let's get to the blowout first. The Baltimore Raven defense is a Super Bowl defense. They said the Browns are. The Browns weren't. The Ravens definitely are. They stopped the Texans' running game dead in their tracks. They put pressure on the young rookie C.J. Stroud all game. They didn't even get into the red zone. And the only score that they had was that punt return. And so to me, it looks like, I mean, we're gonna talk a little bit about Jackson, of course. But Jim, when you have a defense like that, that's one of the two things you need to win a Super Bowl.
You got two all-pro linebackers in Patrick Queen and Rohan Smith. Chicago, although they're doing some good things, made a poor decision of getting rid of Rohan Smith. This guy is special. I mean, he is a special linebacker because he can play in coverage and he can play the run. I saw some plays in the run that you don't normally see on any team in the NFL other than San Francisco, because they have two really good linebackers too. But that shows you the emphasis you have in your linebackers now, because everybody's talking about spreading it out. But if you don't have those linebackers that can play the run and drop into coverage, you don't have an opportunity to play very well. You saw it in the teams that struggled.
Yeah, it's true. And Jack, Lamar Jackson, he runs for a couple touchdowns. He throws for a couple touchdowns. I mean, his stats weren't great. First half, the Texans put a lot of pressure on him. He seemed frustrated during the first half. Comes back second half, says a few things to the guys, comes out, and he starts running the ball. That's their biggest weapon when it comes to Lamar Jackson. You can't play man-to-man against this guy. There's no way you should play man-to-man defense. Once in a while, change it up. But when you play man-to-man, your back's turned. Lamar's going to take off with the ball.
Yeah, Mac, first of all, I'll disagree when you said it was a blowout. 10-10 at the half isn't a blowout. But Lamar Jackson, 11 carries.
Oh, sorry.
The game is 34-10. I'm not letting you get away with that. It was a blowout. The second half, they dominated the team.
Tied at the half, 10-10.
It doesn't matter. They didn't get in the red zone, Jack. They didn't get in the red zone. Listen, they won 34-10. That's 24 points. That's a blowout to me. I don't know. What is your definition of a blowout?
But I'll agree with Jim about Roquan Smith. When the Bears moved on from him, the Bears were in a rebuilding mode. But how many times have we seen in the NFL? Stick with your elite players if you have them, and in a couple of years, you're going to be ready to contend. And think of what he'd mean if he were on the Bears right now. But he's not. Baltimore has a really elite defense. We keep talking about their offense. I mean, their offense is so good. Not say Flowers is their best receiver right now. And even Odell Beckham Jr., he's a weapon that hasn't been really utilized fully. But Lamar Jackson, 11 carries for 100 yards. He's the best running back in the NFL, but he's disguised as a quarterback. He's the ultimate, the biggest weapon in the NFL. If any team, Lamar Jackson is the biggest single weapon.
I disagree with that. I think he's a quarterback, and he can do both, which is to him. He's Steve Young. He's like Steve
like Taysom Hill.
Steve Young never could run the way Lamar Jackson does. Lamar Jackson had designed running plays yesterday.
But that's the style.
Wait a minute, Jim. Wait a minute. Lamar Jackson is nowhere as accurate as Steve Young was. Please, let's not go there. Lamar Jackson's a better running quarterback than Steve Young, I think.
I disagree.
Good morning, Keith.
I think he can
Good
throw
morning,
the ball.
Keith. Good morning, Keith.
guys.
Back from Vegas, where he lost his hat. As you could see, he's not wearing his hat today. The New England Patriot hat is gone. So let's get to Sonja. I haven't brought her in yet. I want to. What's important to me and Jim mentioned this, and I wanted to get to this too, was the adjustments at halftime. As I said, the Texans defense was blitzing Lamar Jackson. He seemed very frustrated in the first half. So they make a big change. They start getting the ball out quicker. And I think the best receiver right now in the Ravens is their tight end Lately. He started going to Lately more or Likely more, whatever it is. And I think it's Likely or Lately. But anyway, he has a great touchdown catch. They start getting the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands fast. And he was standing back there in the first half. It looked like he was trying to throw the big ball, but all of a sudden they're moving the ball. Lamar Jackson again runs with the ball, scores a couple touchdowns, throws for a couple touchdowns. The adjustments made by the Baltimore Ravens, I think, is what ended up making that game a blowout, Sonja.
I honestly thought it was the lack of the defense by the Texans. I know that each team does make their own adjustments during the half, whatever. But to me, it just looked like the Texans were beginning to get worn. They were out there quite a bit. Lamar is very, I call him high octane when you see a quarterback that's just firing. But one time he was so well covered. I promise you, he could have gone to the car and gotten something out from the parking lot, come back in, and then still thrown the ball and been covered. They covered him and protected him so well, even out of the pocket, that I honestly feel like they just wore down that Texas defense.
Yeah, I saw that too near the end, the fourth quarter or so, Keith. So, Keith, give us your thoughts back, as I said, from Vegas. I imagine I don't even know. I imagine you watched the game? You got back yesterday. What did you think about? What did you think about Baltimore's performance? Are they the favorite to win the Super Bowl now?
I would say, and I haven't been a fan because they haven't really proved it in the playoffs until, to me, yesterday. But I would say yes. All year long, they could have. This is a team that was ahead in the fourth quarter of every single game they played this year. Every single game. They could have theoretically won every game. They didn't, obviously. Yesterday, I thought the Texans did a good job of staying in this game early. I thought the turning point was when Christian Harris got banged up. They made an adjustment where he was spying Lamar Jackson, if you remember, late first quarter, I think, most of the second quarter, and they shut down the Ravens offense pretty good. He got banged up, and I didn't think he was the same player after that. And I think that affected the game. And the fact that the receivers could not get any separation, and Stroud had very little time, I thought, to throw the football. The Ravens are just a better team. And this is a young football team. Just take nothing away from the Texans. They had a great year with a rookie quarterback and a lot of young guys, a rookie coach. So Ravens might be the favorite after what we saw with the 49ers struggling last night, too. So, which I'm sure you'll get into.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo and Kansas City still have to play, and it'll be decided then. I think the AFC matchup here from Buffalo today against Kansas City, and whoever plays the Ravens, I think it's going to be very exciting games coming up. So McCaffrey,
Sonja talked about them, the defense wearing down, and they were on the field a lot yesterday. I think that. the Texans had a lot of 3-and-outs and very short possessions, and that really hurt that defense. It was a ball game. To Jack's point, I mean, until the game got out of control in the fourth quarter, but you never had the feeling the Texans were going to win this football game because except for the punt return, the offense was really doing nothing.
And I think more than in any other game, C.J. Stroud was constantly flushed out of the pocket, was constantly on the run.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it came down to veteran versus rookie, the skills and the experience of the NFL, playing in the NFL, and Lamar has just honestly been here a little bit longer. And this was CJ's first big stage, honestly, coming from college.
I thought he played with some pretty good points.
He played well. Amazing.
Yeah, but the MVP of this game was Todd Monken, the OC for Baltimore, because he's taken Lamar Jackson to another level. He's really sharpened his skills. He's a better passer than he's been in the past. We all look. He only had 152 yards, but he also had 100+ running, which is pretty impressive. I mean, Munkins has done it. He knows what Jackson does well, and he utilizes that.
And that's a good point because he had another offensive coordinator last year, and Jackson would periodically complain about the schemes.
Mm-hmm.
And I like his connection. Mac mentioned Likely earlier. I like his connection with Likely. They've made some big plays over the last month or so.
Exactly.
Of the season. Zay Flowers, is turning into a great player in the second half of the season too. And this team is getting better at the right time, I think, too.
And then you have Duvernay back, Devin Duvernay.
Yeah. Nice. That kick return he had early in the second half, I think helped turn that game too.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
Now you got to realize Devin Duvernay won the 100 meters in Texas. He won the championship twice.
Oh, wow.
He was fast. He was really fast.
Jim, with your Texas player update, he's always good for that. So let's get into
I tried to recruit him to Colorado, so I know a lot about him.
Okay. All right. So let's get to that second game. McCaffrey runs for 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, has a great game. Debo got taken out, I think, in the first half, kind of took a weapon away from him. But listen, Green Bay played good. Their defense played really well in the beginning. Jordan Love had a good game, threw a couple interceptions, but and they missed a field goal or two. Or listen, there's 5 plays as we all talk about a lot during the game that turns the game around. If a few of those plays go Green Bay's way, Green Bay wins this game. They played a really good game. San Francisco doesn't look. I know Debo wasn't with them, but they didn't look as physical on defense as they did. Great game plan and getting outside with Aaron Jones having the wide receiver crack down on the defensive end and pitching to Jones. Jones had a big game. Kittle, of course, has his kind of game where he makes a good throw, a good drive at the end of the game. But overall, guys, this game could have went either way.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I would agree. I think it would have went either way. At the end, Jordan Love started feeling the pressure.
Yeah.
At the end, but as far as you're right, there were only a couple plays. They were 1 or 2 plays away from upsetting San Francisco. I don't know if San Francisco is bad or Green Bay is that good. They've at the end of the season, they got on a run and they had a lot of confidence for a young team. And you have to give them credit. Jordan Love proved that he is an NFL quarterback. He's gotten better each week. There were people on this stat on there that said he'd never forget about Jordan Love. I don't want to say any names, Mac, but but the kid is getting better, and the scheme helps. The scheme helps him.
Yeah, especially when you look at the 49ers that they were supposed to have been well rested. They've been off, for a couple of weeks. And to know that they came back and did not look like the same 49ers. This looks like a different 49ers than we saw in the regular season. It literally looks like something is missing and you just can't put your finger on it. That's how they looked last night.
The game was lost for Green Bay early when they had 3 opportunities in the red zone and had to settle for a couple of field goals. The NFL has changed. You're not going to win games kicking field goals most of the time because it's a higher scoring league than during the time Jim played in before. more
That's
points
true.
to put up, and that's really where the game was lost early on. Green Bay could have forged to a nice lead, and it would have changed everything.
Yeah, Jack stole my point there a little bit. I agree 100%. They had them on the ropes and never put them away. They could have put them away similar to what, maybe not as badly, sorry, Jim, they did to the Cowboys last week, but they had a chance to put that kind of damage, get that kind of damage done early, and they didn't really capitalize. And then the big mistakes by Love. I mean, he's theoretically a rookie quarterback. I know he's been around, but he hasn't played. And I think they made a couple of big mistakes there, obviously, in the second half that hurt them.
And when we're going to talk about Brock Purdy, the comeback he engineered, the guy was really Christian McCaffrey. He refuses to go down.
Oh,
The guy
Well,
has
there
such
was
a will. He
something-
always gets a few extra
And
yards.
I agree, Jack. But what they did to the defensive line, the Green Bay, helped them too, because they were eliminating the tackle. The tackle was wrong on the defensive tackle, and they were knocking him over it. They had a gap, and then they also had the safety in the gap, and he missed it wide open. He should have attacked it.
Yeah.
He was waiting for him. And that's not taken away from McCaffrey. I'm just telling you, they had some scheme issues that they created.
If I'm the 49ers, I'm more worried about the way I didn't stop the run last night than I mean, they handled Jordan Love pretty well after the first few drives, I thought. But still, they ran the ball. Aaron Jones just ran the ball. I think they should have run the ball more last night.
I agree.
But they did tighten up on short yardage situations, the Niners.
Yeah.
Again, a great design, I thought, chipping the defensive ends there, Young and even Bosa getting outside there with Jones is really smart. Great offensive coaches. Both of them are. Goes to show you
Foles been around. That's all that is a student body. That was USC ran that for years. I mean,
hey, listen, it works, man. I mean, listen, they took full advantage of that.
They did take advantage of it.
They sure did. And listen, it goes to show you how important the kicker is, right? I mean, if you don't have a great kicker, and every team that's won the Super Bowl to me has had a very good kicker. And if you don't, it's gonna come back and bite you. And I think it bit the Packers there too. So and we'll talk a little bit more
Niners
about
missed
that.
the kick too that got blocked, so it kind of evens out in a way.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So again, we got San Francisco holding and serve. They're going to be playing Detroit or Tampa Bay. We'll get to the games here later. Let's get to Keith with a couple of college things. Keith, Bill O'Brien goes to Ohio State to become the offensive coordinator down there. Bill O'Brien's a good offensive coordinator. I think Ohio State had a little problem with their offense, especially at the end of the year. He should help them out a little bit.
Yeah, I think this was. I'm not surprised at this move. He wasn't going to be coming back to the Patriots. I don't think he had that type of relationship with Mayo. Maybe I'm surprised he went back to the college level a little bit, but he had success at Alabama in the same role, and I think he'll do well there. And I think he's got a good quarterback to work with. I think in Will Howard as well.
If Bill O'Brien is that good of a coach, Keith, why is he constantly moving?
Well, he spent a lot of time in. I don't know if he's moved that much. He spent a lot of time in Texas, and then he went to Alabama. Where's he been? He's been in New England, Penn State,
New England,
Alabama up until now.
College stops.
I mean, he's good. Good coaches do move around.
Yeah, in college you move a lot, Jack.
Yeah,
that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, but you think he'd want to be in the NFL, and after being with the Texans and having initial success, then going to New England, and it was a failure at New England. I hate to say it; it didn't work out at all.
Not all his fault, but yes, it did not work out. He's got to take some responsibility. They brought him in to fix this offense that didn't get fixed.
They brought him to fix Mac-Jones.
There was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes there that we found out since that lovey-dovey press conference that Belichick and Kraft had. So,
and plus, the NFL is not for everybody.
Yeah,
the college is not for everybody. Some people are better college coaches. Some people are better NFL coaches.
I think if Bill O'Brien coaches, if Bill O'Brien's a head coach again, it's very likely to be on a college level. That's what I think. If he wanted to coach in the NFL, he'd have stayed a coordinator in the NFL.
The big thing in Ohio State is they let Urban Meyer's son go, or not his son, his son-in-law.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
They're going to be an interesting team next year.
Yes,
I love the transfer quarterback, Will Howard from Kansas State. He's really good and much better than what they had last year with McCord.
Keith,
The
Urban
transfer
Meyer's
portal is
name just
horrible
came
right
up.
now.
Keith, Urban Meyer's name just came up. He had a terrible stop, obviously, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but other coaches have had awful stops somewhere, yet they're in demand. What's the situation? It's like no one wants Urban Meyer, legendary coach.
I think that there's enough taint, and I don't think he wants to coach. By the way, I don't think he has any desire to coach again. I think he's happy doing TV, and I don't think you'll see Urban Meyer coach again. I think he had a bad taste in our mouths from both sides from that Jacksonville debacle that I don't think he'll coach again. He could coach.
So
If I'm a college
let's
coach,
get to the Patriots. Of course, they named Mayo as the head coach, as you predicted. Of course, we found out later it was in Bill Belichick's contract when he left that Mayo would take over. And I mean, it shows that Bill Belichick does take care of the people underneath him. There's no interviews. There's no nothing there. He doesn't. They're on the ground running. What do you think is going to happen with Belichick's kids? Does he stay? Did both of them stay there, or do they leave and go with Bill?
They have been offered positions if they want to stay. Whether it'll be the play caller on defense like Steve was, I don't know. If I'm Steve Belichick specifically, and his younger brother, whose name is escaping me, maybe a different story.
Brian?
It might be Brian. He's not been as much in the limelight as Steve has been, right? If I'm Steve and I want to make my way in this league, I think it's time to make a break for my father and maybe stay in New England with Gerard Mayo.
Hey, but Keith, don't you think that it's fascinating that Atlanta wouldn't let their defensive coordinator at first take any interviews? Then all of a sudden, they let him take interviews. So they might be setting up to get Belichick.
And if that's the case, then he may be bringing Steve with him, yes.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting.
Something happened at the press conference which made me feel uncomfortable the way Gerard Mayo just handled it. They asked Robert Kraft about hiring a black head coach, and he said, I don't see color. And then Jared Mayo said, you have to be able to see color. And he's sitting next to, Robert Kraft, and it's kind of like he didn't mean to undercut him, but it kind of had to feel a little uncomfortable if you were Robert Kraft, because your new head coach introducing is saying something right the opposite that you said. And Gerard Mayo maybe could have added in some additional complimentary words about Robert Kraft right after that. He was speaking from the heart and it was appreciated. But to me, it had to make Robert Kraft feel just a tiny bit uncomfortable.
Well, I probably, yes. I mean, again, Robert Kraft's answer, I think, was probably trying not to take it down a race, but, not to undercut Mayo's credibility as a coach, right?
Yeah.
So again, it was a little weird, but I'm not going to take a lot away from that. I think Mayo wanted to point out, though, that it was kind of a big deal, that he's got this job, and they haven't hired a black head coach before, and it's still a big deal. So. Listen, they held this guy in high regard. I don't think there's any problem with a relationship between these two guys. And Belichick, too, I think Mac kind of alluded to it. Don't forget, this was partly in his contract because Belichick wanted it in the contract as well when they were wrapping him up last year and keeping him from interviewing for other jobs. So I like the transition here. Look, it could fail miserably. I don't know. We don't know about any guy before he's head coach.
It's obviously going to be predicated on who they hire as the OC.
Exactly. Part of me tells me Josh McDaniel may be back there, but we'll see.
You think so?
I think it's possible. It depends on their relationship. I don't really know what their relationship was.
Interesting.
He left in New England. Josh McDaniels left in New England. Remember with the Raiders, the way he got mad at Antonio Pierce because he said something that might seem negative against the Patriots.
He'll never coach anywhere else again after that. He'll never coach anywhere. They won't hire him, I don't think. But remember, Mac Jones had a really good rookie season under Josh McDaniels, and there's a lot of chatter that they're not done with Mac Jones. He may still get another chance to rehabilitate himself, and he needs a strong OC and a strong quarterback whisperer in his first year, or they're going to fail miserably next year, unfortunately. But we'll see.
I think Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones needs a babysitter because he acts like a baby when he makes bad plays out there. That's what.
Yeah, that looks that way when you're losing.
Anyway,
when you're winning, nobody talks
let's-
about it. Though.
Can we?
Yeah.
You know what? It's very funny. Tom Brady was a crybaby, but he was winning Super Bowls, and you know it's different when you're losing. It looks different when you're losing.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
Listen,
I got you fired up.
You'd be crying too if you had the players around you that he had and the plays being called that he had, for crying out loud. Ugh.
We went through it, Keith. We're not telling.
I didn't even want the guy.
That we hadn't gone through his Giants.
As Jack remembers, I didn't even want the guy. Now I really
listen. In the off season, we're going to talk about where Zach Wilson is going to wind up.
I want to just do one
Yes,
tiny plug. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Speaking about rehires, did you guys hear that the Eagles reached out to Frank Wright to try to bring him back?
I did, yeah.
As a coordinator,
they're trying to bring him back as OC. Frank Wright, former Panther of us, former head coach, and basically they're having conversations with him and Sirianni to try to look at the coordinator positions to try to improve them. I thought that was interesting, so I just had to put that plug in there because I heard about bringing folks back.
They won the Super Bowl with Frank Reich as their coordinator.
There's a lot of problems there. I don't know what they are, but there's a lot of problems.
Right. They said it's locker room
There
related.
definitely is. So, Keith,
when I was on
you
with Tags.
So Keith, you gave us your first two picks. You went 1-1. Who do you got today? I know who you got, but so everybody else knows who you got today, winning or covering. Or
I will take the Kansas City Chiefs, as I said before. Do not count them out until they get beat. They played a really good football game. I know Miami was in no way if they were going to win that game in 80 below zero weather, but I like the Chiefs until they get knocked out. I will pick the Chiefs, and I like the Lions against the Bucks.
all right, so there you go. That's Keith's pick at 1-1. Let's see what he does here on the rest of the other next two picks. Keith up next on his show over there at the Stream of Consciousness, right? Am I saying it right?
We'll be streaming a lot of consciousness this morning,
thing he's got going on. Right. So be sure to go over there and listen to Keith. Keith, thanks again for coming in. Glad to have you back, partner.
Always great to see you, Keith.
Good to be here, guys. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Take care. There you go, folks. Keith with TGI Sports coming to give us college updates and Patriots, and also knowledgeable in all the sports that we do over here on the Big Football Show. So let's get a little bit into the big stories. I'm going to lead it off with Coach Tomlin. Everybody thought that he was going to not everybody, but there was rumors that he might go and take a year off, at least get away from the grind, go into maybe into commentating or something, but he's definitely staying. I guess the next thing is, how long is he staying, right? Are they going to work on an extension or something? What do you think? What do you think, Jack? I mean, listen, great coach, not good, great coach, but he still hasn't got the team back to where it's supposed to be. If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I think they're craving a Super Bowl again. It's one of the greatest franchises in the history of football. And, he just hasn't been able to do it. So what are your thoughts?
Mac, I was thinking the other day, there are 30 teams in the NFL. So the law of averages say you're going to win the Super Bowl once every 30 years. Think of it, with parity in the league, it is so hard. All you can do is put your team in the mix. The best coaches get their team to the playoffs time and time again. And then you take your chances to see whether you get over the top. The number one seeds often don't get there to the Super Bowl. Coach Tomlin's been great. He's always had his team in the mix, and they did win it one year with him. And once you win one Super Bowl, to me, it stays forever. You got a gold card. It doesn't mean you should keep getting jobs all the time, like a Mike McCarthy, who I only regard as a so-so coach.
Wait, hold it. Listen to what you just said.
I knew that's got it.
Listen to what you just said. McCartney was 12-5. He's won 2 division championships. He struggled in the playoffs, but it's all right for Tomlin. It's all right.
Tomlin is.
Oh, geez.
Tomlin is a better coach than Mike.
You're not making sense. You're telling me that Dallas is different than Pittsburgh. That's what you just said. It's okay for Pittsburgh.
Dallas is more of an appealing destination for players to go to.
You're not making sense.
Yeah, you're putting their records that are almost the same.
Tomlin's
You're saying that Tomlin's okay for Tomlin, but not for McCarthy. And
Yes.
I'm with Jim. I don't agree with that. I think if you're going to say that about one, you got to say that about the other because it's basically the same thing.
The Packers moved on from McCarthy. The Packers had teams a number of years that were favorites to go to the Super Bowl and fell short. They made the playoffs, but fell short the way they did with him being coach at Dallas this year. Tomlin's Steelers teams have rarely been favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They've been one of the teams maybe that would be in the mix, but no more than that. Going into this year, the Steelers weren't favored to go to the Super Bowl by anyone. People thought maybe they could make the playoffs. Dallas was favored by some people to go to the Super Bowl. Certainly more people favored Dallas to go to the Super Bowl.
Let me ask you this question.
Pittsburgh.
Let me ask you this question. If Robert Salah went 12-5 the last 3 years, would it have been good?
Of course.
Okay, then you can't say that, Jack. You're wrong on this. You can't put one guy and say that, oh, he's doing all right when he hasn't been to a Super Bowl in 17 years? And then you tell me this other guy is wrong. You got to make.
Mike McCarthy had better teams at Green Bay than Mike Tomlin had at Pittsburgh. That's the difference. Pittsburgh is always.
I don't know. It's pretty close.
It's not a good argument.
Mike McCarthy's had elite talent year after year. He's had elite talent. And Jim, you picked the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, and
I always pick them to win the Super Bowl. I picked them for the last 28 years.
He bringing out the
Let me ask Sonya this. Whoa. Let me ask Sonya this question. Let me simplify it. This is for you, Sonya. The Carolina head coaching job is open. It's open right now. You have your choice. Both of them are willing to go to Carolina. You could sign them both. Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy? Is it even close to you?
Tomlin.
Thank you.
But I'm going to tell you why. Hold on before we just go for that. It's just because of what I've seen, how McCarthy kind of flakes now. But honestly, Jack, I'm not going to side with the other stuff because you look at Tomlin had Roethlisberger while McCarthy had Rodgers. The two organizations are so closely matched. I honestly was in my mind trying to think of any difference while you were speaking to try to be like, okay, I'm probably going to get pulled into this tiebreaker. Let me get it together. And I honestly got to side with Mac and Jim because I don't see that big difference.
Listen, Mike McCarthy's back. So initially, after Dallas lost the playoff game this year,
let's get to that. Let's get to that point.
Fine.
Jack, let's get to that. Jim, McCarthy's back. Quinn may be interviewing for other jobs. He might be back.
He is.
Let me ask you a question now. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, to me, another team like the Steelers, they play for a Super Bowl. There is really not a lot of parity in the NFL. You get teams that come up and they'll win, a bunch of Super Bowls or get to the championship a lot more than other teams. So, Jim, is it a mistake for them to keep in McCarthy?
Well, they didn't extend his contract, so this is basically a one-year deal for the whole the coaching staff. They have to do it now. The big thing Dallas has to do, first of all, they got to find a running back. Complimentary running back. Bring Pollard back. They better find it. And the next thing they do is they got to get linebackers, Branderes, because they got two in Bland and Diggs will be back. So they got two elite corners. They can get away with average safeties. You love to have a great one, but that linebacker position is where they're struggling at. They got to figure out a way to correct that. And they could have them. That's the big thing because that's where they are. And I don't know. Obviously, their draft class didn't help them a lot this year, but they can get better. Some teams are like that with their younger players. They got to come along and mature. So I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about the linebackers. in the complementary running back, because you see the teams, San Francisco and Green Bay, they both have really good running backs.
And I'm watching a game yesterday. Dalton Schultz, the tight end for the Texans, who was the tight end for the Cowboys. Why did the Cowboys move on from him?
Because he wasn't that type of player. I thought the guy they had this year is a way better player.
I watched better. I'm with Jack. Schultz played well, Jim, this year for the.
He did
play well for the.
But he is not the answer. He's on a 1-year deal with Houston, and Houston will make a mistake to put him on a long-term deal. I'm just telling you. I think that Dallas has the real tight end this year. The kid from Wisconsin, and he's really good.
I'm trying to remember his name. Is it Jefferson or something like? He's a big number 87. I know his number.
Yeah, he's a good tight end, and he's what you need. Schultz, I watched him in practice, and that bothered me because when you drop a pass and don't even try it, don't get mad. You just walk back to the huddle. Don't do anything. That bothered me.
Now, you mentioned drop passes, and you hear these coaches saying, well, the game is lost because we don't make plays earlier. People are going to forget that final drive where the 49ers scored a touchdown. Perfect pass from to George Kittle. Just dropped it. Anyone could have caught it. And people forget plays like that, but the coaches are right. It really never comes down to one play at the end. You said something, Jim, that's always been a point of annoyance to me, not you saying it in itself, but coaches that have 1 year left on their contract, why should they be extended? Unless ownership wants them bad enough. It doesn't make them a lame duck. You sign a 3-year deal, you play out the 3 years. After 2 years, the owners shouldn't feel obligated to sign you to an extension.
That is true.
He's got 1 year left, McCarthy. Let him have a good year. If he has a good year, chances are Jerry Jones then resigns him to another multi-year deal. If he doesn't, he's a free agent.
Right.
Yeah, and that tight end's name was Jake Ferguson. Yeah.
Ferguson.
Right.
Yeah, Jake Ferguson.
Yep.
But you're right, Jack. Jason Garrett, twice, his contract wasn't extended.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard on your last year when you're a lame duck, but it also forces you to either do it or you're going to move on.
Yeah.
That's just the reality.
So Sonja, Las Vegas, they're saying may host multiple Super Bowls, and how far we've come from about 3 years ago. Who would have thought that Las Vegas, with all of that gambling out there, and sort of like people wanted to stay away from Vegas if you played in sports. Now all of a sudden Las Vegas is the place to go. What are your thoughts? I mean, is there a black eye going to Vegas anymore? Is it bad for football or baseball or basketball? Is this just the way it's going to be now?
I actually thought about that because you got the Oakland Athletics coming to Vegas as well. They're going to be destroying the Hotel Tropicana and making that the new area where the Oakland Athletics play. And the Tropicana, of course, is one of the oldest hotels on the Vegas Strip. And honestly, I've been to Vegas a few times. It's hard to imagine that this city has now become a sports town. But then you think about it, why not? It's a money market. You talked about, you have the gambling, you have the fornication, you have all the inhibitions that people are Sin City. It is Sin City. And so with Sin City, they're trying to create the appeal of everything everyone loves. So people love sports. They're bringing it there. It did get a very big hiccup when the Raiders first got there, and then the whole unfortunate situation with Henry Ruggs. That put a bad damper for the emotional appeal of people, the fans, but for the organizations, the NFL, the MLB, it definitely did not stop the mindset and the plans to go forward. The only thing I could see is Vegas is one of these cities that you can carry alcohol, you can drink alcohol out, public consumption. That may be something that maybe some laws may have to be enacted, at least along the Strip, to kind of keep behaviors controlled. Because, you know, sometimes with fans, we hear the unfortunate stories of how fans behave in different venues across the nation where, you know, there've been teams that have real bad beef or what have you. But overall, you know, I feel like I said, it's a money thing, and Vegas is like, bring all the money, not just the gambling, bring all the money right here so we can see it up front and personal. So I think it's a great idea for them. You know, it's not going to be 100% family oriented. Let's be clear. But hey,
let's talk about a little bit about RG3. Kind of went after Gruden, Jim. I don't know what that
Jay
is.
Gruden.
You got your fan. You got your fan going over there, Jack, or something? The big fan
no.
going. Okay, I was just wondering. All right, so Jim, Jay Gruden, RG3 kind of goes after him. Said he kind of, you know, I don't know if you want to say threw him under the bus or whatever, but he wanted him to, yeah, and I mean, I look at this as an owner or a GM. I see Gruden has a certain way about him. He's a good coach, but he still has some kind of an attitude, and I never really liked his attitude.
I didn't
but
either.
You know, here's having RG3. He wants him to stand up and say something, you know, at a press conference to get the players fired up, or the locker room. Gruden kind of throws him under the bus. I mean, as a GM or a owner, does that make you pause if you really want to hire him? Because there's rumors he might go to the same.
Well, it's Jay Gruden, not John
Yeah,
Gruden.
he said
Jay Gruden,
it was his brother.
Him at
But
Washington.
what happened is Jay Gruden was the head coach at Washington, and he said it on. This is bothering me, this Twitter stuff, because Jay Gruden said that RG3 wasn't good enough. He said that Kirk Cousins was a lot better player, but it started when RG3 got on Gruden. And I mean, if you have an argument, where was it the old days where you sat down and you meshed it out instead of go on Twitter? That's happening with
so irritating.
That's happening with other things, players, coaches, everything. And it's ridiculous. If I got a problem with you, I'm going to call you and we'll mesh it out, as opposed to putting it on. Why did put it on Twitter? Because people, that's what Skip Bayless and Micah Parsons are having.
Yes, they went in.
I don't want to hear
Parsons went in on him.
I agree with you, Jack, but this is ridiculous.
No. What? There's a storyline now. People forget when RG3 went number 2 overall in the draft behind Andrew Luck that year. In that same draft, the Washington Redskins, they were called that at the time, picked Kirk Cousins in the 4th round. What are the chances of picking another quarterback in the same draft in the 4th round? Because a 4th round draft pick still has value. He's going to make the team. You're not going to cut him. So that was a red flag. Was that a Jay Gruden pick? Or was RG3 a Daniel Snyder pick?
I think what happened is you got to remember the system that RG3 played in. And the problem is that they're really not very good reads for a quarterback. They don't learn the proper way to look at a defense. It's all sight adjustments.
But it's more than that. The same thing happened to RG3 at Washington that happened to Cam Newton at Carolina. They were beat up. They were allowed to be beaten up by the coaching staff. They were abused. RG3 constantly took
But Cam was the difference.
There has to be a way to protect your quarterback. They didn't protect these guys. RG3 was taking constant poundings. He was hurt. He'd be basically, it seemed when he was hurt, he'd be rushed back into the game. There was no long-term care for him. And RG3 had an outstanding rookie year, and then he was never the same after that.
But just to go back to what Jim said about the way that people go on social media, I always think that, like, just pick up the phone or text them. Why are you making it such a public platform? And it's just the day and era that we live in. Clicks and likes. Oregon's coach said it best. Clicks and likes.
It is true.
Stir the pot. You could resolve something so much better one-on-one than when you involve billions of people who have their own opinions, and you're reading the comments and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't think about that. But now you've made the situation worse. And like you said, that whole Michael Parsons situation with Skip Bayless is Michael Parsons went in on Skip. Like, a lot of people go in on him, but Parsons was like, hey, you just wanted me on
the
your
best
show.
thing you could
You
do,
were
Sonia,
blank. Yeah.
if you're Micah Parsons, ignore Skip Bayless. He had to stay case closed. By retaliating, you bring more attention onto
Right.
I would
Click
agree.
them
I
right.
spent many years around Skip Bayless, and he is not a good person. He makes up lies. He's done it for years.
They
That's
said
why he got
that.
ran out of Dallas.
Well, he
I've
did
heard
it
that.
with Troy
I've heard
Aikman.
that.
He tried to go after him, invent stuff. It's
I mean, he
not
does
a-
it all the time.
So anyway, before the game, I think it was the night before the game, LaFleur said he prays every time that his kicker Carlson kicks a field goal. This is according to a Fox broadcaster, Tom Rinaldi, and then of course after the game he didn't walk it back, but he said that wasn't the only reason why they lost. But it just goes again. I just wanted to bring the point back again. You know, if you got a Vinatieri, you got a Jan Stenerud, you can go back or up to the future, the Ravens kicker, and you got to have a good kicker to win the game, especially when you get in the playoffs. Let's see.
Stenerud missed a big kick in the playoff game where they lost to the Dolphins. The year the Dolphins went to the Super Bowl when they lost to the Cowboys. Before you were Cowboys.
I'm talking about when he. I'm talking about when he basically helped beat the Minnesota Vikings with like 3 50-yard field goals, Jack. So he's one of the best. He's a Hall of Famer. So he might have missed a couple. I think everybody misses a couple kicks.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the upcoming games a little bit, guys. Packers should be in here in about 15. So, you know, we've got to me, I think is maybe going to be the best game of the playoffs so far when you got Kansas City playing Buffalo. Kansas City's kind of owned them, you know, the last couple times they played, but they've been good games. I mean, it's not – I think one game Kansas City beat them like 27-10 if I'm correct. I don't know. But I know it's always come down. It's always been a good game. Is this the year – I know Jim's going to say it is, but is this the year – we're going to start with Jack. Is this the year that Buffalo gets over the top, beats Kansas City at home? Patrick Mahomes has never been in a away playoff game, Jack.
No, and people keep talking about Patrick Mahomes being on the road. Do you think he's really fazed about having to play at Buffalo? I don't think it bothers him at all. And they're coming from Kansas City where it's frigid weather as well, where they're used to that. And it'll come down to execution. I'm not sure what the weather conditions are as far as how the field is going to be. But Kansas City, I mean, they've been there 1,000 times before. They're up for the moment, and Buffalo is dealing with some injuries. They're dealing with some injuries. It's going to be a close game. The only surprise is going to be if this game is not in doubt towards the very end. That's the only surprise.
Sonia, what do you think? I think, according to your picks, let me get to your picks here really quick. You've got the Bills. -3. Sonia, by the way, is 0-2. We'll talk more about that later. But Sonia,
They took a dig at you, Sonia.
Sonia, you got the Bills. So I guess you think that this is where Josh Allen gets the monkey off his back and beats Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. But of course, it's not going to be just the two quarterbacks. You got two defenses. You got two pretty good running backs. What are your thoughts? What do the Bills got to do to beat the Chiefs this time?
So, first of all, I know you guys talked about the weather. They had all those fans lined up yesterday that cleared out everything. So it's going to be a lot clearer from all that snow from last time. I think they still paid them like $20 an hour or whatever. But the fans got in there and got the stadium cleared off. It should be pretty clean for the fans and the players today. Bills and Chiefs have squared off like 6 times since 2020. And both of them have won 3 games each. But Buffalo won 3 of the last 4, and Kansas won both playoff matchups. So I think it's going to come down to whoever has the ball last, whatever offense is out there last. But today, like you said, it's not just about the quarterbacks. I feel like they're going to have to keep coverage on Kelsey, because I feel that I've seen him when he's covered adequately, at least like double coverage or whatever. They're going to stay on Pacheco. If they can slow down the run game and keep the coverage going, I think that they can really do well with staying where they need to be. And I honestly have, even though I'm 0-2, I have the Bills winning this game. This is Patrick Mahomes' first time traveling to Buffalo. And so I think that's advantageous for the Bills. And then we've seen how Josh Allen has had, the fire lit under him as of late. And these teams are familiar. They're always the last two teams standing, almost, I should say, one of the last four teams standing in the AFC. And so I think sometimes familiarity, excuse me, plus the maturation of Josh Allen that we've seen can be exactly what they need today to get it done. So I'm saying go Bills.
So Jim,
Well,
Kansas City has a really good running back, and I think a lot of it's gonna fall on Pacheco's shoulder. And that running game of Kansas City, Buffalo's defense has stood up. I mean, I'm surprised how well they played with all the injuries they've had. So I mean, I think if they can stop Pacheco, make Mahomes win the game, not that he can't, but would make it a lot more difficult for Kansas City to win.
I think you're right. You got to realize Buffalo, or Orchard Park, I should say, that's where they play at, is a unique place. Going in there, they have open fires in oil cans. I mean, big in there, and it looks like a war zone. Those people start coming in on Thursday, and it is a difficult place to play. Those fans are avid fans. They come from Canada. They come all over Western New York, and they are going to be pumped for this game. I have never seen anything like this. Playing up there, they are avid. They love the Bills. The Bills Mafia is real, and you'll see it today. And I'm agreeing with you that it's going to be a close game, and I think Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. But that fan base is going to help Buffalo win this game today.
I'm going with Kansas City. Kansas City's secondary is so underrated. Those guys are really, really good. And for Buffalo to really mount an offense, Josh Allen's going to have to be using his legs. They're going to have to establish a running game, a lot of screen passes. If they don't execute that way, they're not going to gain many points.
Yeah, but Zach Cook is, he's playing at a pretty high level, right?
James Cook. But I mean, you can run on Kansas City, but to pass on them, that's going to be pretty difficult.
I would agree, but you still got Diggs, and they got those young receivers are starting to play. The tight end is playing well. They have more weapons at this point than Kansas City.
So are you going with the Bills, Jim?
Well,
yes, I'm going with the Bills.
Everyone
I got a buddy.
assuming Miami's vaunted passing game was shut down because of bad weather. They're not thinking that maybe wasn't the reason. It was maybe because of the Kansas City defense, regardless of the weather. The way they harassed Tua. I know that he hit one big play to, Tyreek Hill, but that was about it.
Maybe a combination of both on that. Miami going to play in 0-degree weather. I think it affected them.
Yeah, and I agree.
Defense had to play.
I agree.
15 fans had to go to the hospital afterwards to be treated for hypothermia. 15 Dolphin fans.
Yeah.
Yes, we covered that in the debate show. So, listen, I think Josh Allen has to do his best imitation of Jackson. I think he's got to run with the ball, keep Kansas City's defense guessing. Again, I would tell Kansas City, do not go man-to-man. You go to man-to-man, you start running around with them wide receivers, Josh Allen's going to burn you. You're going to have to play zone and blitz.
The problem with going zones is those two tight ends, Kincaid and Knox.
I'm going to ask you three a question. I think you three are going to be unanimous in this, okay? Of the two quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who's more likely to make the big mistakes in this game?
Josh Allen.
Sonja?
I would agree.
There you go.
I would agree with that.
God.
Who has a better kicker?
Jack.
Yeah.
Who has a better
But
kicker? I want to know who has a better
I don't
kicker.
think he'll make the mistake. I think he'll play within there because Joe Brady, for whatever he's doing, has him playing within their offense. Because if you remember at the end of the season, he hasn't been as explosive as yes, the last game he was. But other than that, it's been the running game and their defense that have helped them get to this position.
The
Because
cream
when
rises. What did they say? The cream rises to the top, and Sonia's familiar with Joe Brady, I'm sure.
Yes.
yeah, but he won a national championship with Joe Burrows, and I agree. At Carolina, he did struggle, but he has a unique quarterback in Buffalo, and you see what's happening. He's playing within. They're playing within that offense.
I'm telling you, Carolina ruins not only players but coaches as well. As long as we got that O line, so he's with a different organization now, Jack.
So let's get to the game that really nobody really talking about. It's the Detroit Lions against Tampa Bay. Jim, I think, is the only one that took Tampa Bay to cover. Listen, to me, the Lions have a shot at going to Super Bowl. The way San Francisco played, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I think if Debo's still injured, affected, if they beat Tampa Bay, I'm not trying to get by Tampa Bay. I just think a leopard doesn't change its spots, Jim. I think Baker Mayfield had a great game last week, and that happens. But Baker Mayfield is still Baker Mayfield. He's very limited to me. He can make some throws. He normally throws 2 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. You say Tampa Bay's got a good defense. I think Detroit has an awesome offense.
But here's the thing.
Explosive. Let me finish. I think they're more explosive than the San Francisco 49ers are, and maybe any other team out there. They got 2 great running backs. They got a pair of good tight ends. They got some unbelievable wide receivers, and Goff can put that ball on the line anywhere on that field, Jim. So that's why I think Detroit's offense is going to be all over Tampa Bay's defense.
But here's the thing. Baker Mayfield doesn't have to win the game. What he has to do is manage the game. There's a difference. Baker Mayfield, as long as he doesn't try to do too much, they'll be fine. If he doesn't put him, it's the similar of what Jordan Love was doing. If Jordan Love manages the game and doesn't throw 2 interceptions, like we said earlier in the show, they have a great opportunity to win the game. It's the same for Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield can't take the game over and think that he's going to win the game. They got to rely on their defense and running game and short game. Take some of the series away from the offense of Detroit. You're right. I agree with you. Jared Goff is a great running back. They have great receivers. But this is an uncharted area for Detroit as far as getting to this part in the playoffs. And that's nervous. You get nervous when you're there because you've never been there before. And Detroit doesn't have any players that have been there before.
Goff.
Yeah, but Goff.
Sure. Went to Super Bowl.
Yeah.
There's a bigger question with Baker Mayfield. He's the one quarterback entering the playoffs that is kind of on probation. The Buccaneers would love for him to play well, give him a long-term contract, and he'll be their franchise quarterback. But do they believe that he's the guy? They have to stick with him, I guess, next year, because who else are they going to get? Are they realistically going to sign someone like Kirk Cousins? No. So they kind of want Baker Mayfield to perform really well. What happens if he doesn't? What's Tampa Bay supposed to do? Give him maybe a Daniel Jones type year, like a contract for a year or 2, as opposed to a 4 or 5 year deal. But if Baker Mayfield lights it up, imagine he wins this game and he's outstanding. I mean, is it an illusion for the Buccaneer franchise to then sign him to a long-term deal or not?
I don't think you sign him to a long-term deal. I think you sign him to a good deal, but as far as a long time, make him prove it.
But this is good. He has his chance to prove it. He's in the playoffs.
But he would have to win this game, and he'd have to win, obviously, by a wide margin, which is not going to happen in Detroit. Those fans, did you hear what Matthew Stafford said? That was the loudest those fans have ever been.
You experienced
So they never
the
were that
playoff
loud for
game
him.
you experienced it in the playoff game against the Lions.
Yes, we were lost.
Yeah,
But
you
you had
lost.
Barry
You were-
Sanders too.
yeah.
Well, listen,
I
there's-
still have nightmares about Barry Sanders. I wake up sweating.
I feel like as much as I feel like as much as, you know, Tampa's from my division, as much as I would like to be like, oh, okay, you know, at least they'll represent the NFC South and this will give a more positive narrative for the league as a whole, instead of saying we're the worst division in the league, to come back and, you know, advance through the playoffs. My gut is telling me, because Baker used to be with Carolina, he has performance issues long term. He has a way of putting on I like to look at it like the window shopping. Like you look at something in the window, it looks great. Then you buy it, it still is okay. Then when you get it home, there it is. It's really a defect. I feel like Baker is doing the window shop right now. Think about it. They barely were above 500 in our division, our entire division, the entire season. Like they say, a leopard cannot change spots. The Lions are hungry. They're going into the Lions den, and Dan Campbell and them with Laporta, even though these guys haven't been there before, Amon St. Ron, all of those guys will demolish them. And even though Baker can supposedly be this game manager, if he is not consistent with his passing and he begins to throw equal amount of interceptions that he does with passes that make touchdowns, you're looking for a mud bath up there, and the Lions will devour Tampa Bay today. Like I said, I want them to advance because I want the narrative to be changed for the South. But at the end of the day, I have to be realistic, and I know that the Lions are hungry. Like you said, Matt Stafford said the fans are louder, and that's baffling to know they weren't that loud when he was there for 12 years.
I kind of wonder that
they're going.
Sonia, I kind of wonder this, and I don't want to hear the talk about players. Supposedly they have to be professional. You're never supposed to look ahead. You just focus on the game at hand. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense because everyone is human. Is there a realistic possibility that the Lions are looking ahead? They know they got to play this game, take care of business against Tampa Bay, but the big showdown at San Francisco to see who goes to the Super Bowl. And that, I think there's that minor danger that they are looking ahead. They're not supposed to, but that they are, unlike the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are certainly not looking ahead. Oh, we're going to San Francisco next. I think some of the Lion players already have it in their head. They've kind of won that game. It kind of reminds me of what John Mackey, the great tight end from years ago with the Baltimore Colts, said about them losing the Super Bowl to the New York Jets. He said, in our head, we won that game. And you have a big problem when you already won the game in your head.
You do, and that's what I think happened with the Eagles. They thought that they had already won that game with Tampa Bay.
No, I don't think that. The Eagles was such a mess this season. I don't think
they were a mess.
Anything.
They were a mess, but to me, the mental just looked off. The facial expressions, everything, they were not present in that game. It was almost like they're just here because they're on the schedule. I do think that Dan Campbell and his fired upness, if that's a word, I think they already see themselves at the Super Bowl. I think they have advanced mentally past whoever's there, San Francisco, Tampa Bay today, whereas Tampa Bay is saying we're winning this one game at a time, because let's look at how they've played all season. They have to have the one game at a time mentality because they cannot take on too much else. They barely got where they are.
But that
favors they have to be one at a time.
That attitude favors the Buccaneers.
Jim, let me bring you in here. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Campbell was a player before. He was a coach on other teams before. I don't think when you get to the playoffs that you look ahead of anybody. It's win or you're gone. There's no way you should be looking ahead of anybody. I don't think Dan Campbell lets the Detroit Lions do that.
I agree with you. You don't do that because that's what's going to happen to you, is that you're going to probably lose. You got to take the team that you're facing and you got to win them one at a time, either if you're the favorite or not the favorite. You have to win the game, and that's what you have to think, because every team is different. And you You play Green Bay, you play San Francisco. I mean, there you don't know, but you got to get there first. And Dan Campbell, yes, Dan Campbell is an excellent coach, but they have struggled. Someone, Aaron Glenn, look at their stats. I was looking at their stats, and they have struggled more than you think on defense. And they only beat last week. They won by 1 point against the Rams. They won by 1 point.
The Rams are a good team.
Well,
Yeah,
you're going to see Buccaneers won't be able to run on the Lions today. Baker
I
Mayfield's going
disagree.
to have to be
I think
creative.
the Buccaneers will be able to running better.
So I have to digress because I just looked, and it looks like about 5 days ago, Dan Campbell was talking to the media. And even though I'm thinking, he's got them all hyped up and they already see themselves in the Super Bowl, he literally told the media, I just fact checked it, that they look at it one game at a time and do not get ahead. So that was my personal opinion.
That's what he's going to say, Sonia. Is a coach ever going to say, I'm looking ahead past this game? They're always going to say that.
They are.
That's not always true,
Jim,
Jack.
would you help him?
We will win.
You help him, Jim? I mean, I think you're taking that whole week studying film, looking at the last game, look at the last time you played them. You're all into the matchups. You're trying to get a scheme going. You ain't got no time to worry about San Francisco right now.
That's right.
You don't care about San Francisco. You got to beat them
you
team.
worry about this game here and now.
Of course.
I'll never forget, and from personal experience, none of us had been to the Super Bowl before, so we didn't know. We were in California, we enjoying the sun and the fun. But Charles Haley had been there, and he knew what it took to win. So we didn't have a very good practice, the first practice. He got everybody together and said, this is not how you prepare to win a Super Bowl. The next day, we had the best practice of the whole year. Things like that. When you have guys that have experienced it before, they know what it takes to get there and know what you have to do to see. And things like that.
A lot of teams do that too, Jim. They pick up some veterans that have been to the Super Bowl, and just on a younger team. You see it happen all the time. Just to be a leader there, because as you said, you got to learn to win. You got to know what you're doing in the Super Bowl. A lot of young teams get upset in Super Bowls because of that. They're all over the place, where a veteran team will win, even if they got a team that's maybe not as good talent wise as a younger team.
Exactly. It's not. It's how you prepare yourself to get there. You have to win games, and just like everybody said on this, is that you have to win the game that's in front of you. If you're worried about, we got to go to San Francisco, let's get everything ready, as opposed to worrying about, we got to worry about Tampa. Tampa's got to worry about Detroit. That is what's at hand. Don't tell me.
Jim, we know that, Jim. We know that, and I made it a point that shouldn't be a point. What I'm trying to say, on the whole Tampa Bay roster, there might not be one player that's looking ahead, figuring, okay, we have San Francisco next. They're focused on the game. On the Lion roster, there's probably a dozen guys who are looking ahead. They're trying not to look ahead, but nevertheless, they are.
Jack,
it's the human, the human.
That's called coaching, and that's where coaching comes in. You can't let them look ahead. You have to keep them in the moment. If you don't keep them in the moment, things can happen.
And the thing about this game, and I know Jim's taking Tampa Bay, but I think this one thing: if by some unknown reason they look ahead somebody and Tampa Bay goes up 7-0, I guarantee the Lions will kick that right back in gear. That's done with. I don't think Tampa Bay is going to do what they did to the Eagles. The Eagles were just playing horrible at the end of the season. So there's no way that they're going to go in there and put a quick 14 up on the Detroit Lions. That's not going to happen. I don't see that happening at all. So,
guys, anyway. Crowds are different depending on the franchise. I don't know, these franchises, how they might act. The Lions, if they fall behind 14-0, does the crowd start booing? The Cowboys, when they fell behind the Packers, were fans booing? I know in Kansas City,
they got fired because they booed
the Chiefs. The Eagles, their opening game this year, they were booed at halftime. And that's coming off, playing in the Super Bowl, having a big year. I mean, does that put more pressure on the Lion players if all of a sudden
It
they're
does.
behind
And I'll tell
14
you,
nothing?
Jack,
They're at home.
you're right. This is the most exciting part of the season when you have these opportunities, but it's also the most nerve-wracking because you got to go and do things, and you got to, especially if you're the favorite, you have to win. You have to find a way to win.
So we're gonna do something different with the fantasy football team. I'm gonna give you mine. I'm gonna see if you guys can come up with who you think would be a better pick than I got at the certain positions. We'll see. Jack, I don't know if you can handle this, but we're gonna give it a shot. All right. So
I'm not
if
a
I'm picking
fantasy football player, so I
know. I know you're in fantasy land with the way you think about teams. So anyway, let's go and try to. Jack, you could do this. I know you could do this. You could do this. So my quarterback, of course, I think Detroit's the best bet of the week. I think Goff is accurate. I think he can make the throws. He's got the receivers. He's got backs on the backfield. He's got the tight end. He's questionable. But I'm going with Jared Goff as my quarterback, my fantasy football quarterback. I think that he has an unbelievable game. Passes for over 300 yards.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the Buffalo Kansas City game, you have the weather conditions, which is going to hamper the quarterbacks.
There you go. There you go. So I got Goff.
You're talking about passing, right?
Yes. Well, as fantasy points, passing would be touchdowns and yards and stuff like that. So Jack's with me. What do you think, Jim?
I would go with Mahomes still. I don't think they're going to win, but I think Mahomes will have a good game because he's just a unique quarterback.
I don't like his receivers. What do you think, Sonia?
Just between the 4 games for today.
Well, yeah. Yes, today.
2 games.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So, I think Goff also. I think he's going to have a really big game. Passing is going to be on point. I believe more in his consistency because sometimes Mahomes' passes can look just like he's just throwing a Hail Mary, and some kind of way they're miraculously caught. But his passes just look like they're all over the place sometimes. Honestly, I've always said that. So I'm going to go with you and Goff.
I think the only other quarterback that has a shot because he has the legs and he might get fantasy points running as well as passing might be Josh Allen. That would be to me the second guy there.
Well,
So
Tampa Bay is going to blitz off a lot the way they did Jalen Hurts.
Okay. All right. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about the running backs. My first running back is Pacheco with Kansas City. I think he has a really good game in Buffalo. He's that style of a running back. I think he gets maybe a touchdown and maybe runs for 80 yards or maybe 2 touchdowns if they get in close. And I also like the Detroit running back. Let me get it here. Is it Montgomery? Let me get it real quick here. Yes. And Montgomery. I like his speed. I think he's a hard runner. So I'm taking the Detroit. I'm going Detroit big time. I'm taking Detroit, Montgomery, and I'm taking Kansas City. I'm going to take Pacheco. What do you think, Jack? Who's your 2 best running backs?
James Cook and Pacheco, different teams that game because there's going to be a lot of running plays called in that game.
It's a good pick. What do you think, Jim?
I like James Cook and Pacheco too because I think there is going to be a lot of running, and both of them are good backs. But I like James Cook as a receiver too. I think that's where
that adds
Singletary, the former Bill running back, did yesterday for the Texans. You'd think Buffalo certainly could have used him in a game like tonight.
What do you think, Sonia? Who's your 2 running backs?
I'm going to go with Montgomery for the Lions, D. Montgomery, and then they got Jahmyr Gibbs, and I had both of them on my fantasy this year, so I'm going to go with those running backs, both from the same team.
Gibbs is definitely a big play guy. Gibbs is definitely a big play guy who's catching the ball and running with the ball. That's not a bad pick either. I think a lot of running backs are going to have big games today, so we'll see what happens with that. As wide receivers, for me, I've got Rice for Kansas City. I think that's really his best option for Mahomes when he throws the ball. I think that's going to be his best option. So I'm going to go with Rice. I think he has a really good game. But I'm also going to go again with another Detroit guy. I'm going to go with Amon St. Brown.
Yes.
I think he's
yes.
going to have a big game against Tampa Bay. What do you think, Jack? Two best wide receivers you got out there, you think?
I like Evans, okay? Baker Mayfield absolutely has to make him a big target. And if I say a long shot, Tony for Kansas City, I mean, he's been a non-factor.
He's hurt. He's out, Jack.
No.
Is he not in today? He's not
Yes.
back?
He's out.
Yeah,
He's hurt.
Can I
Yes,
count
his feelings hurt.
a tight end? Can I use a tight end for a wide receiver?
Yes. Well, we'll do a tight end. So just another wide receiver. We'll do the tight ends too.
Evans and Diggs, obviously, with Buffalo. Diggs has to be if Buffalo's to win, Diggs has to do something somewhat substantial, I think.
Jim, who do you got for your two favorite wide receivers?
I have Stephon Diggs, and I have Evans also.
I think Diggs gets taken away. That's I think he gets taken away.
Tony definitely not playing.
Yes. Yeah, that is correct.
Tony is done, Jack. Jack, Tony is done. His career is over. The guy stinks. Let's be honest. All right. So, Sonia, who was your two favorite wide receivers?
I've got Amon St. Brown myself, Amon St. Brown from the Lions, and I also have Mike Evans.
All right. Mike Evans is a popular one. A lot of experience. Needs to have a big game for.
Well, Mac Evans is going to be a Jet next year if Tampa Bay doesn't sign him.
Yeah.
That's what you
Hopefully
think.
we can get him.
So tight end, I got the Philly sports guy in there. We'll get him in here with his fantasy team. So Paz, get ready. I'm going to be asking you for your fantasy team for today. We're kind of going through what we think. Tight ends, guys. Do you go with a favorite? Do you go like with Kelsey? Do you go with? I think
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the tight end for the tight end for the Bills. Is that Chadden or
no? It's Dalton.
I'm trying to remember. Kincaid. I should remember that because Kincaid was a TV actor that I used to watch. Anyway, listen, I'm going with Kincaid. I'm going with Kincaid. I think Buffalo has been using their tight end and the running backs in the backfield a lot this year. I think Kincaid has a big game for Buffalo. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, they're going to keep Kincaid busy, and so I'll go with him. And how can you not go with Kelsey? Come on, Kelsey's got to be an automatic pick.
Possible. I like Watson, maybe better than like Kelsey for the Chiefs. What do you think?
Kelsey's been a little hurt, a little banged up, but at this time of the year, with everything on the line, I think he's going to respond.
Yeah, I think Kelsey and Knox are going to give Kansas City problems. I like Kelsey. I mean, not Kelsey. Kincaid.
Right. Who do you got? Who do you got for your tight end, Sonia?
I'm gonna do Sam Laporta.
He's not 100%.
Oh well, let me get Kelsey there. Let me get Kelsey. It's such a close one when you got Kincaid and then you got some great tight ends. I knew Laporta.
Kelsey's a little injured too. Yeah, he's a little banged up. He'll play, but who knows?
No, well, okay. Is Kincaid 100%? Is Kincaid 100%? Let me just get Kincaid.
I think so. All right, we'll give you Kincaid. Let's bring up Pags, the Philly sports guy. Let's hear. Okay, he does the fantasy football a lot, and I want to get his ideas on. Who would be your quarterback, Pags? Your two running backs, your two wide receivers. We didn't do our defense yet. We'll save that till the end.
Who would be my quarterback?
Yes. Pags?
Are you hearing me?
Who would be your quarterback?
If this were boxing, I would have counted Pags out by now.
Are you hearing me? I'm sorry. I'm having technical difficulties this morning.
Pags, we hear you.
We were moving along. We had such a flow on the offense in this show until Pags came on, and he kind of crowded our offense, the flow of this show.
Yeah.
Pags.
Well,
Matt,
I will just say
haven't-
one thing in the meantime while Pags is
Okay,
thinking.
we'll let him go out and come back in again. See if he gets.
You got to
see if he
admit,
gets
we
a
all
hang of that.
thought we would hear Pags and Jeffcoat debating about the Eagles and Cowboys, who's going to go to the Super Bowl, and arguing. I guess both guys never dreamed their teams would be out quickly.
Oh wow, that's so shit.
We never argued. Yeah,
Well,
you're
I
right.
mean-
We never argued about the Jets going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's true.
I thought they'd go
That's
to the
true.
playoffs and win the division. I mean, I picked the
So, all right,
Panthers
so
to win the division for what
Jack,
it's worth.
Jack,
Thanks,
Jack,
Jack.
congratulations on your first fantasy football. This is the first fantasy football team I think Jack has ever picked. So who knows? Maybe he'll win something.
I think
here.
it's more challenging during the regular season when you have all the teams to pick from, as opposed to a short list like now.
I agree.
I would definitely agree with that. A little Philadelphia news. Sirianni, it looks like he's staying on, but they did want a list of all the coaches, especially on the offense, from what I was reading, who they want them to be as coordinators and coaches. I don't know how big a turnaround this is going to be, or a big turnover this is going to be. But Jim, when you have, to me, there's two ways to build a team, right? Well, let's. There's not really two ways. There's two components of building a team. First, to me, is a coaching staff. You've got to have a good coaching staff that can develop players. And secondly, because you can win without a lot of talent. You can win as long as you have good, fundamentally sound football players. But then comes your talent, and that's when you start improving. Philadelphia is like taking it the other way, right? They're going the opposite. They already got talent, but now they're bringing in coaches to do what? I don't understand.
The way I look at it, and this is an issue with Philadelphia and Dallas and teams that had success, is players are different. And I'm not saying they want to win, but are they going through the things to win? Because the coaching, if you look at the coaches that left Philadelphia, the two coaches in Indianapolis and Arizona, they changed the culture of those two teams. The coaches that it came in to Philadelphia, and even Dallas had some turnover last year, and they didn't change the culture. They didn't keep the culture the same, because the worst thing you can have is the locker rooms complaining about things and playing. So those things. You got to have the right culture in your locker room and the right players that are backing you.
Okay, so, let's get Pags. Let him do his fantasy team, and we'll continue this about the Eagles here a little bit that we've been talking, Pags. So let's get your fantasy football team in first. Quarterback, wide receivers, running backs, and a tight end, and a defense.
Okay, I'll take Lamar Jackson. Or is it only today's players?
Of course, it's today's player.
Today I would take Goff. I think Goff is going to have a big game. I take St. Brown. I think he's also going to have a really big day. I like the running back, Pacheco. I'll take Pacheco today, and maybe the running back of what's that? I don't even know who the running back is of Tampa.
Rashad White.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's going to be able to run for.
Yeah, Rashad White.
Yeah, so Rashad White, Pacheco, and then I got St. Brown, and then we'll go with I don't know, one of the receivers from Buffalo. I don't know them.
Well, you know Diggs, right?
Diggs. There you go. Perfect.
I thought you played.
Hey, listen, I don't play it in the playoffs because I don't know everybody by heart.
Oh, I don't know.
I just pick winners. That's what I do. I pick winners.
Oh my God.
I pick winners. That's why I'm the GOAT.
I thought you played.
I'll be back, guys. I
thought you played fantasy football all year.
I did. I was the champion this year.
Okay. Yes. So anyway, Pegs, your defense would be who?
Detroit.
I don't know. Pegs is all right. There you go. That would be my defense too. Jim, who would be your defense?
Buffalo.
Buff. Jack.
Good question there. I would have to say Detroit.
Do it.
Detroit.
Okay, and Sonia.
It's a toss up for me, but I'm gonna go with Detroit.
Wow.
Mentally trying to work through it.
Okay.
Like
all right.
the scenario.
There's no money involved. There's no money involved. You can just let it go. You know what I mean? But anyway, so Jack, congratulations on your first fantasy football team. I want to see how Jack's team does. So, Pags, I was talking a little bit about Philadelphia and how this is going to be kind of crazy, right? And what I mean is, like, when you build a team, I was talking to the guys here. When you're building a team, you normally get you got your GM, you got your coach, gets the coaching staff. They got a set of players. Then they start building the team with the players. You keep some vets, you bring in some talent, you make a draft. This is kind of going opposite with the Eagles right now, right? You guys got some talent, you got some really good players, you got some all pros, and now it looks like you're kind of building a coaching staff. It's kind of backwards in a way, if you see what I'm saying.
Well, I think that they have the talent, and that talent didn't produce because the coaching staff this year didn't put them in all of the right places to succeed. So when you have that type of situation occurring, you feel that, okay, if it's not the players, it's got to be the coaches, and you're going to have to try to figure out what's going to be your best case scenario. They went to the Super Bowl last year. For the most part, the same type team came back minus linebackers. Okay, so the linebackers were really the one biggest blaring difference between this team from last year and this year. If that's the case, we should have had similar offensive output, and we didn't. And that you could say that Steichen was the main culprit of that he was the one that was really designing the offense. And even if Nick was the one calling the plays, or even if it was Steichen that was calling the plays, the transition from last year to this year, there was a drop. So going and finding coaches that could maybe pick up that level again isn't so. I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it might be a little bit harder, but I'm not sure if that's what the problem was. And I guess I'm going to ask this question to Jim, because there's some rumors floating around that there may have been some infidelity of one of the players' significant others with another one of the players. How bad do you think that would tear apart a locker room?
It would tear apart a locker room. There was no question about it. If you have that situation, it becomes personal. And players are going to pick sides. And they're going to look at those two people and wonder, hey, how can you do this? Because we're supposed to be a team.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Brothers, actually.
That is exactly right. So I'm thinking that would be a big issue.
So, and because the rumors make too much sense, specifically with the timeline that this occurred, I mean, I can't. There's a lot of things that you could use as the excuse, we'll say, to say that you've lost 6 of your last 7 games. But nothing fits better than that rumor swirling. And I've been throwing that around, saying that rumor is around. It's in too many ears. It's still being spoken about even now. And I feel like, until I spoke to Jim and actually know how a locker room feels about stuff like this. I mean, this happens every day in people's lives.
Yeah, but some things you don't do. There are certain codes that you live by.
Right. No, and I get it. So if that really was the case, and you put it on the highest of levels, There's a reason that would make too much sense on why things didn't work out the last 7 weeks.
But there's so many moving pieces
Would that
to a
be the only
football
reason, Jim?
team,
Okay.
and like Jim said, there's so many moving pieces
that's
to
what I
a
was gonna
team,
say.
and guys are playing for their jobs. I can't imagine certain players shutting down it all because they're playing for their career in the NFL.
Well, Jack, also, but you got to think about it. This is different. When you go on that personal level,
Yeah,
you stop thinking about it because whatever, it becomes more emotional from that standpoint, and that can destroy a team. There's, like I said, there's certain codes in the locker room that you live by, and when you break those codes, it destroys your whole team.
I mean, it's kind of similar to the TO situation.
All right, so say
yeah, you do get that on
say
any
that
level.
did happen. Say that's true, and we don't know, and we don't know if that's true or not. That's just a rumor. So say it is true, but you got to admit, changing the defensive coordinator at the end of the season sure didn't help the Eagles. You got to admit the injury to Brown didn't help the Eagles. That the injury to Jalen Hurts didn't help the Eagles. So even if this is so, which we don't know if it is or not, even if it is so, that's not the only reason that this happened. It's just a major reason why it might have happened.
Guys, Jalen Hurts was sitting by himself on the bench during the Buccaneer game. That kind of showed the lack of support. Other quarterbacks have their teammates come up to him, try to pick them up, or they show leadership qualities. They're walking up and down the bench and encouraging their teammates. He was just sitting there in a trance.
I know that
throughout
too.
the game. That was revealing.
Yeah. He looked really sad. It looked really sad.
Yeah.
I saw
Wasn't
that.
he talking to a coach about what happened in the previous series?
No, throughout the
I think
game, he
maybe
was
one.
just sitting there. There was no camaraderie
Not
with his
much.
teammates. And then Goddard was yelling. His tight end was yelling at him.
And that could lead back to
it
what
was
Pagsy
made out to be.
That-
But that was damage control only.
And that would make sense with what Pag said, that there's something going on that, dividing the team and that people aren't talking to each other and they're sitting by themselves and thinking, and that would go to support what Pags is saying. So, maybe this is something that, and again, whose fault is it? I mean, Jim, you being in a locker room, I mean, I imagine it's happened in a locker room before in different teams and that. I mean, who's the bad guy? Is it the guy that fools around? Is it the I mean, what does that do to inside of a team? I mean, I know
like
what you say, it breaks the code, but I mean,
becomes more than football, and that's the thing you got to look at. But I think the worst thing they could ever did was put Patricia in as the DC. I think that really bothered them because there were some people that didn't like Patricia before he was the DC, and when you bring a guy like that, who is divisive. And I'm not saying he's not a good coach, but he was running New England schemes, and that wasn't good. That was good. They had already prepared to run certain things that Deshaun put, and now he's running his own schemes, and that hurt him because they do have talent. There's questioning, like Pack said, the linebackers were a problem.
And I got to tell you guys this, with Nick Sirianni, consider this factor. Let's say Nick Sirianni was available. He wouldn't be a candidate for a head coaching job elsewhere right now. Compare that to Carl Shanahan or Sean McVay. They would be hot candidates for any opening.
I disagree. I think
Sirianni wouldn't be hired, for example, by the Tennessee Titans right now. They would have a list of guys ahead of him.
Why not? Why not? Why not? He just took a team to the Super Bowl, Jack. Why would he in?
His stock went down badly. I'm not saying he's not.
I disagree. What happened is you lose two coordinators that are pretty damn good, and they proved it. They helped two teams Indianapolis, nobody anticipated Indianapolis playing this well. In Arizona, as the season progressed, got better. So you lost.
People only look at what have you
But
done
they
for
were
me lately.
not.
That's what
They
Jack's
were
doing.
terrible at the end. It was a case of completely falling apart at the end. It was different. They didn't just lose games. This wasn't the same Eagle team. They suddenly lost it. I know they won some close games early, but they hit a wall. They were like a marathoner who got to the 20-mile point. They're running strong, and all of a sudden they hit a wall and they fell
Did he
apart.
not listen to what I said? Did he not listen to what I said? That the timeline would have made sense with all of that. That's what I'm talking about. That it doesn't matter when it becomes personal and it becomes human. When you take out the athlete and you put in a person, it doesn't matter how much you actually have. Like you could be the most talented person in the world, but if you're in your own head, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And
We look at
and
how LeBron was in Cleveland when the situation happened with his teammate and one of his loved ones. He left Cleveland. He went to Miami. So and during that time,
I think he wanted to
LeBron
win
was
a championship.
peaking.
I think that's why he left Cleveland at the time. Oh, I understand.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
part
why he
of it
left
too.
Cleveland to go to Miami.
Yeah.
That was when close to winning a
But
title.
Sonya's,
And Dwayne Wade was his buddy at Miami.
that's what's that's what Sonya meant. So guys, let's talk about the Eagles' choices of defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. I just read somewhere where the Eagles might be considering the Detroit's offensive coordinator, Cooter or whatever his name is there. Does a good job with Detroit. You've got a lot of defensive coordinators and offensive coordinators talented out there that could move into that place. You got, I don't know if Daniel Quinn would want to do something like that. You've got, of course, you got Martindale out there. You've got the defensive coach of Baltimore out there. I mean, there's a lot of talent out there right now for the Eagles to go and get these coaches to maybe put that Band-Aid on and start going again. So what do you think, Pags? Who, if you were the GM, you're looking at an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, who would be your first two candidates?
For defensive coordinator, I like the idea of Wink Martindale. I think that's a for a number of different reasons. I think that he's got a big stick up his butt about the Giants, and that's always good motivation. And as far as offensive coordinator, I mean, I try to wonder why somebody would make a lateral move. Okay, I understand going from the Bears to the Eagles because you're going from a team that won at that time only like 6 games that year to a team that just went to the Super Bowl. So that makes sense to me in a lateral move. Why would Detroit's offensive coordinator, instead of going after a head coaching job, go from Detroit right now to the Eagles? Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why that would be why would somebody make that type of lateral move? And so when it comes to offensive coordinators, I just don't have enough in me right now to be able to say. I wouldn't mind maybe even asking Rivera to step down and be a defensive coordinator. I feel like if he wants to still coach, that he may still have some left in the tank there. But beyond that, I don't know enough about the offensive side of the ball, and there's nobody that's really impressed me well enough to say like, hey, their offense was great. They just didn't have a defense that could cover it, and that's why they missed the playoffs. Whose stock went up a lot? I feel like the offensive coordinator of the Packers.
There's 2 reasons why you might make that lateral move. One, more money. 2, of course, experience. I mean, the more experience you are, the better chance you have getting a head coaching job. And I think a change of scenery, and if you could do it at 2 places rather than at just one, and your stock goes up a little bit. And of course, if they're paying you more money, that would make sense to me too. I think being a coach, Jim, I think you would want to move around as much as you can to get as much experience as you could.
Well, it depends. It depends on where you're at and the success of your team. If you would, like Pack said, Ben Johnson is up. He's interviewing for head coaching jobs. Why would he make a lateral move when people are already talking to him about head coach? It doesn't make a lot of sense. You might want to get an up and coming, maybe a quarterback coach, maybe a Frank Wright. Maybe if Frank Wright comes in and he becomes your coordinator and he can work with the quarterbacks, there's something of that nature. You can do that. But to make a lateral move, then there's going to be some coordinators out there. Martin Smith, actually, believe it or not, was a good coordinator at Tennessee. And you have those things, and they're probably looking into all these guys and seeing if they can come in and help them.
I got a name for you. The Commanders are probably going to have they're all going to have a new head coach, probably a new offensive coordinator. What about Eric Bieniemy?
That's a possibility.
That's not a bad name to have. And I think also on defense, as a part of a defensive coordinator, somebody who's been pining for a job, I feel like has been going out of his way to pine for a job and may take a coordinator's position rather than a head coach, because I don't think he's going to get offered a head coaching position. Rex Ryan, dying to get back into football.
Get back in too.
Rex would be fun. He'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and with the way the Eagles do their coaching staff, like they like to have two head coaches.
The one candidate
going to his father's old team, that would be exciting and entertaining.
Brian Flores did a good job as a defensive coordinator for the Vikings. Till the end, they had a couple of so-so games, but I would have thought he would be a head coaching candidate. Certainly have his pick of jobs as a defensive coordinator somewhere.
Isn't him and Steve Wilkes, don't they have a lawsuit against the NFL?
Well, that I think hurts. That turns me off. But in the case of Brian Flores, because I think that's a result of him not getting the Giant job. If he would have gotten the Giant job, I don't think he would have talked about injustices at all. So that kind of bothers me a little bit. I thought because that was his childhood dream, I guess, being from the New York area and all. But he's a darn good coach, and it baffles me why he was let go after 3 seasons in Miami. And as far as Martindale,
let's finish up with today.
Mac, you always cut me off when I get started over here. I don't get this.
So let's
cut me off before I start making comment before I talk. Plays in motion, and you're throwing the flag. You're throwing the penalty flag as soon as the play starts.
Jack, be careful, you'll get muted.
Yeah. Oh, he's done it a few times.
Yes. Anyway.
Yeah. He's benched me.
Anyway, let's get into that's why I because he just keeps on. Jack just keeps going. He does not stop. So anyway, let's get into the games and why we're picking with Pags here today. Now listen, Pags right now is leading at 2-0, and the rest of us are 1-1 except for Sonja, who is 0-2. And so we're gonna go ahead and see what happens with these last 2 games. Sonja, it's okay. Don't worry about it. There's no money involved, so it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna get Byron's picks in first. Byron's been playing along with us. He went 1-1. He's got Detroit -6 and Kansas City +3. And Keith told you earlier he's got Detroit -6 and Kansas City +3. So Sonja, come on now. Let's go 2-0 here. Let's make it 500. What's your 2 teams and why?
I agree with Detroit with the +6. I do agree with that. Really, Pags?
Minus.
The bad sign.
I'm sorry.
No, it's a bad sign. Looks like I'm gonna be picking wrong again. The Detroit, I'm solid with. I still am gonna go with the Bills.
Well, 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
They're gonna go with the Bills.
Why? I mean, I know the Bills are home. Detroit's home. So what's the game is closer? Which game's closer? Is it going to be Tampa Bay surprising everybody, or is it going to be Kansas City?
No. I think the Kansas City Bills game is going to be closer. I think it's really going to come down to who has the ball last. But I just have not been sold on Kansas City like throughout. They've not played the best ball. Sometimes they actually look like they a little sloppy, to be honest. They've got a lot of drop passes. Kelsey, even though he's supposed to be, he is a stellar tight end. It's just a lot going on with that organization as far as on the field. I don't know about anything outside of that, but I'm just not sold on. So I'm still thinking that Josh Allen is going to stand up and represent Bills Mafia. And then I didn't want to really say it, but I am going to say it. I still feel like this is just they're 1 year removed from the Damar Hamlin situation, and I believe that they are playing. They still have that emotion within that team. Damar did play the last game, so I feel like they want to win as a feel good story as well. Like they want to do something good for this city, and I just think that Bills are going to win it. So I hope I'm the only one, and then all of y'all that pick Kansas City, it'll be the opposite next week when we come on here.
I respect you, Sonia, but I think that the Damar Hamlin situation is 0% that they're thinking win Damar Hamlin at this point.
I got
a year
you.
later. I respect you, but it has nothing to do with it. A year
Well, he
later.
did play. He did play the last
But
game.
it doesn't enter the other players' minds. Oh, let's win this because of the Damar Hamlin. Not a year later. Come on.
I know, but you just never. I just feel like everything matters. Every little thing matters, and even that could be part of it. They might say something about it during the game.
All right, Jack. So tell us again who you got and why.
How can I not like Kansas City with 3 points? Even if Buffalo wins by a field goal, it's a push. You come out even. That's a nice proposition over there. Kansas City with 3 points, meaning Buffalo has to win by 4 points or more, which they're capable of doing. Buffalo's hurting. They have injuries. They have injuries in the secondary. I know we talk about Patrick Mahomes, receivers, so on, but things might be better in that regard. As the season's gone along, he's becoming more familiar with the guys, and he's going to be utilizing them. He's been spreading the ball all around. And, of course, we know with Pacheco, Kelsey will come up big today. I like Kansas City in a very tight game. It might be an overtime game for all we know. But even if Buffalo wins, I don't think they win by more than 3. So it makes Kansas City a smart play in this game. So I'm going with Kansas. I'm going with Kansas City to win the game, on a field goal. But even if they lose, I don't think it's going to be by more than a field goal. Lions, I think, are going to devour the Buccaneers. I think they're going to devour them. I can't see Tampa Bay scoring much on that Lion defense. And I know Jim said the Lion defense has some questions. But I just see the Lions at home winning this game big, like by about 20 points or so.
Ooh, that's real big.
Yeah, well, the crowd will be into it. I could see a 38-17 type game.
Oof. Okay.
So Linda has Detroit and Kansas City. Also, Jim, you're the only one that picked Tampa Bay. I know you think maybe Tampa Bay can stop them. The defense would have to play big. Baker has to manage the game. If Tampa Bay wins, how much do they win by, Jim? Do they just get by them? Do they beat them by 10 points? What happens?
It's going to be a tight game, but you got to understand, too, that Detroit, this is new to Detroit. Tampa Bay's been there a couple of years ago. They're going to go after, obviously, we know Goff, and Goff is going to make some plays. And they do have a good play. Detroit's defense is not as good as you guys think. Look at their stats. They have struggled in the past. And I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. Tampa Bay's, they didn't come from a great division, but they won it, and they played well last week. And I think they're getting better at the right time.
Jim makes a great point that I didn't consider, and I don't know whether all of you considered. Some of the guys on the Buccaneers are already Super Bowl champions. Once a Super Bowl champion, always a Super Bowl champion. So they have that mindset. They're going to enter the field with a certain confidence that they've already won it all, something the Lion players aren't going to have.
It's possible. What do you think, Pags? I got your picks, but I want you to say it for the viewers. Who do you got and why?
So I got the Chiefs. I'm for the same reason why everybody else has got the Chiefs. I think until you beat them, until you beat the best, you gotta you gotta keep going with them. So I think that even if Buffalo wins this game, they're not going to cover. That being said, I going by why I chose the running back from Tampa on the fantasy team, because I feel like that's the one weakness. Detroit is actually good against the pass. They're just not very good against the run. So the Mike Evans dropping a couple of balls. I mean, hey, listen, if he caught two of those balls, they would have been 48-9 last week. So it's I don't believe that that's the Achilles heel of Detroit. They're going to have to run the ball and hold the clock. And that's going to make it a low scoring game. If it's a low scoring game, I give more of a chance to Tampa. They got to score in 6-minute drives, and they can't kick field goals. They got to score touchdowns because Detroit's going to do it in 4 minutes. And Detroit's going to score. They're going to be able to get touchdowns because they do have a fairly prolific offense. Though it's the one thing that they're able to do is score points. I think if you get over 20 points, you're going to beat Tampa Bay, and I expect that Detroit's going to do that. So I got Detroit today and the Chiefs.
Yeah. And I don't know. We keep saying, Jim says Detroit's defense is not their strength, and it's not because they got such a good offense that they beat teams 35-6 and stuff like that, 35-21. I mean, listen, they beat Tampa Bay already 20-6, and they kept them to 6 points. And I think Detroit's defense is better than Tampa Bay's offense. And I definitely think Detroit's offense is way better than Tampa Bay's defense. They can strike so quick. They can strike from anywhere on the field. They've got 4, maybe 5 athletes on that can kick that ball and go all the way at any time. And as I said before, Goff is so accurate. The only thing you can do with Goff is to shake him up. And if Tampa Bay does have a chance at winning in this game, they're going to have to put a ton of pressure on him and knock him down, make him make turnovers. I don't think Tampa Bay has that type of defense. I really don't. I think they're a good defense. They're not Baltimore. They're not even San Francisco. So I think Detroit has is pretty easy.
Well, they don't have the same personnel, Mac. But you know what we don't talk about enough? Coaching matchups. Which team has the coach you'd rather have who can make better adjustments? And I'll tell you, Dan Campbell obviously has to be a smart coach playing all the years that he did. But I might give a little edge to Todd Bowles, who's a defensive specialist. If push comes to shove, moving coaching pieces around. And you look at Sean McDermott and Andy Reid. You give an edge in the game to Kansas City because of the coaching matchup, a slight edge. We don't talk enough about these things. We compare Mahomes and Josh Allen. We compare, Baker Mayfield with Josh. Enough about.
I think any coach that has their team in the playoffs going to divisional round has done a pretty good job this year. I mean, there's not a coach out there that got this team to the playoffs that didn't coach well. You know how I feel about coaching. I think coaching is a very important part of the NFL. But you still got, to me, there's certain things you can look at when you're breaking down a game, to me, and I just don't see Tampa Bay staying with these. I can't see it. I just don't. If they control the clock, maybe they stay in the game. Maybe it's closer. That's the only game that I think is a guarantee. And, we'll see what happens as we go along. So,
but the games like this,
anyway, anything further you guys got to say? Because listen, after this.
The Cowboys and Eagles joined my Jets as far as being spectators during the playoffs. So Yeah.
Oh,
And Sonia's
We
didn't
family
join your-
never threatened.
We didn't join your
Whoa.
Jets because your Jets didn't make it to the playoffs. We may not have gotten further, but we got to the playoffs where your Jets stink. Stink. PU. Stink.
You guys played
New
1
England-
week extra. You played 1 week beyond us. What happened to Jack?
Hey, listen, I think we got more wins in the last year than you guys got in the
Jack
last
is
2 or 3 years.
Jack knocked himself off. He's so mad.
Wow.
Jack is gone. Jack,
So that means since I took the Bills, they
gotta
have
stop
to win
yelling
by
at
a
Jack.
touchdown to cover the spread.
folks, again. Yeah. So anyway, guys, listen. This is almost it. We got the championship next week. Should be a good round of games coming up. I think. Listen, I think Baltimore against Kansas City or Buffalo is going to be a lot better than what we saw. And I think if it is Detroit and San Francisco, it's going to be an incredible game. If Tampa Bay gets in it, hey, more power to them. Maybe I start believing them in a little bit more. But anyway, guys, have a great day. Thanks for all the comments, all the likes and loves and all that good stuff. And we'll see you again next week here on the Big Football Show, as it'll be championship time. It's almost done, guys.
Yeah. And make sure you check on
Have a
Jack
great
and make sure he's all right. He might have jumped off a bridge or something.
Wow.
Well,
That's bad.
Jack's coming in just at the end of the show. Hey, listen, Jack, he's not there yet, but Jack, we do respect